welcome to our Learning Live, the first one of June. Can't believe it's already June. Give me a second. I want to make sure I can see. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. I want to make sure I can see the screen. So if there's any questions, feel free to pop on and I will try to keep an eye out for it. So welcome. It's our first Tuesday of June, and we are looking at monthly sketches. I am Darlene from the Papercrafters Workshop, and I chose the scrapbook layout. If we have time at the end, I will show you how I will kind of revise this and make a card, because some of this is a great technique for a card. May not be as detailed as this, but for sure we could do something with it. So tonight is about a sketch, and I am using the Simple Vintage Woodlands. It has been very, very popular. I love the colors, so I felt that tonight was the night to use it. Also, when we saw the sketch, so Carol picks the sketches for us, and I saw this, and it automatically took me to the cut-aparts as well as the Polaroids. So we're going to play. So here are the papers that I might tackle onto. We have the 3x4 cut-aparts. We have this open road, which has the Polaroids. Oh, I have another 3x4 that I've already used, but it's the green side. This one I'll use the cut-aparts. This one is the journal elements, and you will see how I incorporate this with the sketch. I took a little piece of this, which is the 2x2 4x4. I had to do some of the die cutting, so it doesn't take us that long, but I will go through that in a second. I love this plaid looking paper, which is called Time to Unplug. Not sure if I will use it tonight, but we will see. I have the sticker sheets as well as the floral bits and the ephemera, which I already poured out. I picked a Color Vibe cardstock, which is deep teal. I love how the blue pulls out the blues from the sticker sheets, as well as it pops with the pattern paper. And as you saw in the heading, tonight is about our monthly sketches using dies. So some of the dies that I pulled out tonight, oops, and one goes on the floor, is I took out the selfie frames because it has that Polaroid, which is perfect with the pattern paper. I also took out the All in Create. This one's called Furry Forest because of the trees, the mushrooms, the wild animals, and it goes really good with the whole woodland theme. So those are my dies for tonight. So as I said, with this blue sheet of paper, I did already die cut the Polaroids with it. Give me 2 seconds here. Want to see why I can't see comments. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop on and I will make sure I can see what's going on. There you go. Now I can see it. Okie dokie. And let's get started with the layout. My apologies, my computer, for some reason, is acting up. But anyways, I can, let me just log in.
Hey, Darlene, I'll let you know if anybody says anything.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I don't know what's going on here, but okay, let's get started. So here is my sketch. Looking at the sketch, it looks like there is 2 pattern papers. And what I wanted to do is the main part of the pattern paper, I'm using a solid, which is the deep teal. The second sheet, the second layer, let's call it, I picked the little trees. This is called the 3x4 elements. I'm not using the element side. I am using the greenery side. So let's start with that. So when it comes to sketches, you can do by measurement. I love how the photo measurements are already on here. It's a good stepping stone to where to go. I am changing it up because I am using the Polaroids from my die set. So I know they're 2x2 openings. So the sizing is a little bit different. But for this one here, it depends on how big you want your border, whether you want to see a lot of that solid color or you don't want to see a lot of that solid color. So first thing I am going to do is cut the barcode strip off. And because it has the images in a directional way, I want to make sure that I keep it upward so I don't get mixed up. And also for my deep teal, and I think I'm going to cut off, let's say I want 1/4 of an inch border. So let's cut off 1/2 inch, because 1/4 and 1/4 equals half. So I'm just going to take off 1/2 inch on one side, so the right side. Then I'm going to turn it and take off 1/2 inch from the top. I'm going to keep these aside because you never know, I might use it later on. So in the way I craft is that I always start little because it's easier to cut more if you don't like the amount of border showing, whereas you can't go the opposite. If you cut too much, well, you can grab another piece of paper and add. But I think I like that. I didn't want the teal to be too much, but I just wanted a nice border to go around. And you can choose whether you want the solid or you want the dotted. I like how the dotted is muted a little bit. So you could do it this way or the other way. I am going to choose this one just so it doesn't add too much to, because this is already a full background and the dots just adds a little bit more busyness. And I am going to stick this right in the center. So with this particular sketch that I chose, it has lots of spots for photos. I take lots of photos, I put lots of photos, so it was a perfect sketch to include lots of photos. So eyeballing it, and I believe that is centered. There we go. Next thing I am going to look at is there are photo places. There's also embellishments. So if I look at it, there is 6 photos. So what I did here, I don't know if I cut enough. Let's count. I picked that blue because it pops really nicely off that green. And with your photo there, you don't see that blue anymore. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I have another one? Or do I need to cut a 6? Might have to cut a 6, but I could do that afterwards. What I also did to help pretend there is a photo, I cut these white cardstock just to put, well, white printer paper just to put behind. That way it's easier for us to take a look at what it would look like if there was a photo there. I'm just putting a little bit of glue because I do want to be able to remove this and put an actual picture. So there's one there. And I am going to add a little bit here. So let me do it for all 5. I do have to make one more Polaroid afterwards for my 6, unless I change it up. So, and here. Do we have anybody that likes to do layouts with multiple photos, or do you like to do single photos? I go back and forth, especially if I'm doing a double page layout. Sometimes I'll do one that has more photos and the other side with one big photo. But does anyone have a preference? Whether you like single page, double page, single photos, multiple photos? Okay, so here are my photos. Let's put them aside. Now I have to figure out what I want for accents. And here is where I have my cut aparts. And the cut apart that I wanted to do was this one here. Let's Go Wander. I was picking something that has a title in it, and I thought this one was perfect. Or we could do Life is Good in the Woods. Take your time to enjoy the moment. Ready for an adventure. But Let's Go Wander seemed to be what caught my eye. So I'm going to cut that out. Oopsies. Let's cut that out. And let me cut this row over here. And here. So Joan, it looks like, likes to do both and double pages. Krista finds herself creating 1 or 2 photos. That's awesome. So here is my title. We can trim it down later. So I have my photos. I have my title. The accents are perfect because that's when your ephemeras come in handy. And then this one here is your journaling spot. I'm the worst for journaling spots, but then I saw that I could use one of these for that spot. So either I can even cut this down, my favorite outdoor activities, and then you can, 1 photo per activity. You could do this one here for your journaling. I like this one because it is a little bit smaller, but let's cut these 2 out and we'll see which one works. But that was perfect for me to add because that way I don't have to draw lines. I'm just using what I have. So let me cut that row down, and I'm just following those, how they separate it with the images. Whoopsies. I can always use these little sentiments after. And I'll cut these 2. So these are my 2 choices. I'm eyeballing the smaller one, but this one I could cut it down, but we'll see afterwards. And that is the start. So quite easy. Next thing is I have embroidery thread. I was fiddling with twine, but I found it got really full and bulky. So I am going to use embroidery thread because it's lighter and it's easier for me to tack it down with just my photos and I don't have to add glue. I'm leaving a dangle here to start off with. In the picture, some of them have 2 strands, some of them has 1. And we could double it up or we could just add a second strand right behind the photo. So let me cut 1 piece off so I could cut smaller pieces with it. And let's start with here. So let's start from the top. Actually, let's start from the bottom. Sorry, not the bottom, the middle. And I'm using my desk mat as my guide here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is essentially somewhat the middle here. And I am going to just bring some of the embroidery thread over. Actually, let me pull this down so you can see it a little bit more. And I'm leaving it because if it's too long for me later, I can cut it down, but I want to make sure it doesn't get yanked. And looking here, I have embellishments, photo, embellishments, and photo. If I put it here, can you see that? Let's start off with my photo. I'm not going to tack anything down yet. I am just going to place this so I can eyeball it. The one thing this sketch has is those little clips, clothespin clips. Unfortunately, I don't have those. I know they exist, like real tiny mini ones do exist. I tried using, I was looking at like the gems from Spellbinders, but it was too blingy for me. So I just left it. Well, I am going to leave it, but let me take out the ephemera because we'll need some hearts. So this set was perfect because it has hearts, it has taggies, and let's see what we have here. Because it has all these embellishments that I can use and some hearts. I'm just pouring these embellishments out and gathering what I need. Okay, because it has tickets too. So that can be in place of those ones. We're going to have fun with this. Okay, so if I start with this, I need, let's say, a ticket. We can use a brown ticket, and I need, they have these little dovetail banners, which is where our paper will come in. So let's take out my trimmer, and we can cut different patterns of paper using the scrap. So let me grab some of the scrap that I know I might not use. So we can use this one here because I can use the mushroom side. Is that mushroom gorgeous? The plaid side, as well as, let's see. I am using some of these Polaroids as well, so we can pick and choose. Let me cut this down because some of these end pieces that are cut down, I could use as my banner. So let's cut these down. So here, I'm going to cut some of these down. I might use one or two as part of my layout. And switch that over. So I'm going to save these because these are good banners. I can cut them smaller. And let's cut some of this one here. And with the banners, they're different sizes. So I'm going to start off with 2.5, and if I have to cut them shorter, I can. They look like they're about the same width on all of them. And so this is about 1 inch. I find it too wide, so I might cut it down. So let's start with this one. Let's do about 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to cut a couple. 2 and 3. Let's start off with 3. These ones here, I'm also going to just cut down to 3/4. I did stack them. I'm going to chuck the little pieces. Let me cut one more of that just in case. Okie dokie. So we need a banner, and I think I'm going to pick one of the mushrooms to go here. So it is a little bit shorter. So it goes from small, large, medium. So let's do different lengths. I'm going to freehand and cut a little bit off that. And if my middle one is this green one, it's the largest one. So I'm going to just eyeball 3 different lengths. And then where is that plaid? And the plaid one was in between these two. So just a little bit longer than that mushroom. There. So small, medium, and large. And to do the dovetail, so the way I like to do is cut it to the middle, just a tiny bit. And then from each of the corners, go right to the middle and cut them to create the dovetail. You could also fold it in half to get that crease. But there, and I'm just cutting little tiny dovetails. If it's too long, I can cut them off a little bit later. Okay, so here I have the mushroom. Might change that color because now the mushroom looks like there. And then I have the large one and then the small one. The 2 plaids here does not work, so I'm going to swap. Let me cut another mushroom. I should have realized that we don't want those together, or it's too similar. So I'm going to replace that. And now probably can go back, those 2. I have a little heart, which we can add after, but let's start assembling this middle line, and then it will give us an idea how much to go up and how much to go down. So I'm saying this is my middle, and I am going to start adhering my pieces. So this one I am going to lay flat. So using my desk pad, I'm finding where 6 is right over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I can count, 3, 4, 5, yeah. and here. And I need my ticket. So I think with my ticket, I'm going to pop it up just so there's a little bit of dimension. So I'm using just foam square. Oops, foam square doesn't like me today. And I'm adding just a couple so that way if I need to tuck anything or add anything, I still have that ability to. And it's on a little jaunty angle. So this one goes this way, this one goes this way. You can add a photo here and a photo here. Okay, so let me add my photo. I'm going to bring it up just a little bit. So you could tell it's not straight. I am purposely kind of making it look like it's swaying. This one I'm going to put here. And this one I am going to right beside it. But in the diagram, they have it separated. I think I'm going to let it go closer together a little bit. This one here is going to go over here. But because there is the two, here is where I'm going to cheat and add a little tiny piece behind. And I can cut this one off. So I'm going to cheat and put those two here. And when I stick this on, it's going to hold it. The nice thing about the embroidery thread is that it is so light that the tape runner keeps it intact. But I'm stretching it so at least the line isn't too wavy. And this one is going to go right over here. So it's holding it down. I like how there's curl, but so here's my two strands. And we need a heart. So in the ephemera, I need a heart, a contrasting heart. So I have a green heart that pops really nicely on that. So I might do that. And this green heart, they have it also, looks like it's pegged on. So I'm going to put it right over here, but I'm going to add one foam and have it resting on the side. Okay, so that's my first line. And then with my second line, well, first the top here, now I need my string again and create. So I have a photo, I have my title, which I'm going to trim down a little bit because it's too big. And I could do another photo, but I think what I'm going to do here is taking one of the, whoops, I didn't mean to pull that, these Polaroids and adding it on. And just to switch it up a little bit, I might go like that. So let's trim that down just a teeny bit. So I'm going to cut a little bit off the bottom. Maybe, so I brought it down to 3.5, so 1/2 inch. And I am going to cut it a little bit on the left side here because the words are really close to the other side. Let me try 1/4 and see what that looks like. Because I still have the mushrooms, I still have the flowers, but now it's proportioned. It wasn't too big. So I'm going to raise this a little bit higher because I need it to hang on it. So let's start off with this photo. On this left side, so they've alternated, well, this bottom one has double, This one has one strand. This one has, I mean, two strands. And then this second row has two strands on the right. I can add another one on this side. So let me cut another piece of the embroidery thread. I'm just going to sneak it here. And I am going to stick it down with this Polaroid here on a little jaunty angle, like that. This is going to go here in that spot. I'm going to pop this one up because this one, actually no, sorry, I wanted to pop my title, not the picture. Whoopsies. Let's see if I can peel this off. I wanted the title that's in the middle to be popped up. And in the sketch, it is on a jaunty angle. So if you like that look, or if you like it straight, you could do it straight too, but I am going to do it as if it's hanging off a little bit. This one's over here. Cut off the string on this side. And let's add the faux Polaroid. I'm going to trim some of this brown off the side here. This paper has a brown in between. I'm just going to cut it off so you could just see that creamy color. And this one I'm going to, well, it's all swaying the same direction. Wow, it must be a really windy day if all of it's swaying in one way. So we have our 3 photos. Now we're going to add another heart. I have, I think, the dark green or the brown. Maybe the brown. It pops a little bit more off that blue. I need a ticket for this side. I could use the blue ticket so it pulls in the blue all the way across. So let's add the blue ticket. So this one here, I'm just going to move slightly in so I can fit the ticket. This one's going to hang. My tickets are a little bit bigger, so I am going to overlap it just ever so slightly. And this one here, I'm going to use a pop dot. Oh, thank you, Diane. And my heart, actually, let's bring it down. So I have my heart there, but what I'm going to add here is a little bit of other textures just to bring in some of the things that I have. So changing it up, I have these little taggies that I can add because they look like clips. So we could add that to it, but I think I want to add something hanging here. Not another ticket because I already have a ticket there, but let's see what I can make. Oh, I have those words. Where did I put them? Those cut apart words. Because they look like tickets too. And let's go with peace and quiet. I am going to freehand and cut these out. Because knowing me, I might slip with the trimmer. So I'm going to fuzzy cut these tickets so they have those little notches. Going to have that one dangle there. And I do like having, no, that's too much blue. I have Fabulous. I think I will use Fabulous. Oopsies, what happened to my, I need to stick the needle in. Okay. Stick that here. So it's okay if you go rogue with the sketch. The sketch is there to help inspire us, but it doesn't say that you need to stick to it. So I like to jazz it up a little bit, but it also gives me a way to use more of my ephemera, like the die cuts and stuff. So I'm going to add that there. And now let's go to the last row because we can decorate afterwards. So my last row has double string on the ends. So we could mimic that with the 2 here. So I'm just moving it up a little bit. I need to cut a second piece for the other side. Whoops, where's my end piece? Okay, so let's start off with one end. Here's my main piece. And my main piece has the word, so it is a little bit bigger, so I could trim it down. We can add 2 more photos on this side. Actually, might swap it. I have lots of photos on here. I only have one on this side, so I might swap it a little bit. And that way it's a little bit staggered photos, or I could keep 4 photos. But let's trim this down a little bit. It is a little bit bigger. I could use this and trim it down. I do like this because then you could do a little bit of journaling. So I am going to chop some of this off. So bye-bye boots. Trimming it down just a tad. And just some. I do like that stamp part here, but I'm going to trim it down just a tad. We'll jazz this up another way. Okay. I trimmed some of that terracotta off, that color, but we can jazz it up a little bit. Well, I am going to do some layering. And what I mean by that is I like to add like the tabs, the tickets, and create like a cluster. And so the easiest way for me to do this is grabbing some tape and start sticking. I could probably, there was wonderful here. I could use that as my header.
Lauren is really liking your color scheme there, Darlene. Nice earthy tones.
Yes, right? Well, this set was really easy to find colors and it was nice. I like how it brought in the blues as well as the woodsy color, like the red, the greens. But that blue is really nice. Well, thank you. Oh, look, I have little banners here too that we can add. So I'm just doing little clusters. One thing I'm going to do is grab the stapler and staple the corner here just to give it some, I'm going to grab that stapler. It's a little bit bigger than usual. The tiny attacher from Tim Holtz is a perfect one because they're small little staples, but I love having just that little touch. I don't know, there's something about adding staples to things, but so I'm going to add that right over here. I could have moved this. I don't know. I'm going to try to peel it off. Hopefully I didn't push it down too much. I'm going to lift it just a tad. Oopsies. Just so this doesn't, there. Let me stick this one down flat. Oops, everything's sticking now. So I'm adding adhesive to the little tiny cluster I made here on a little jaunty angle. Going to group those 2 pieces of string. That one I'm going to hide. Actually, I can cut that off. Where is the scissors? So I'm cutting that extra piece that I don't need, and I'll tuck the rest underneath. I cut it longer just so there. And then this one, going to offset it there. There is another ticket on this side. And I moved, so this one here. So I'm going to have 2 pictures on this side. Something like that. So let's stick them down. So this is picture number 2. And then I'm going to add this piece on this side for this last one. So this one here, you know what? I'm going to cheat just so it doesn't keep moving. I'm going to stick that behind. Oops. You could glue it down, but with me and gluing something this tiny usually ends in a very bad way. I think I'm going to put it this way. There. And I can cut this. I can cut my strings a little bit lower. So I have my double. I have 2 photos. I did reverse this. So I did the mirror image. I'm going to add a ticket and some other things. So the boots has that brown. I could bring that brown back in and add it. I think I'm going to change up the order. Actually, this one goes here. So I have the 3. So this one I could move closer to the right. See, good thing for a little bit of adhesive, you can cheat. I'm going to slightly move this to make room for my adhesive, for my ticket. Right over here, this one I will pop. And the ticket goes here. I might add, I feel like something needs to go here. So what do I have in these sets? I already have a word here. I have a heart here, so maybe another heart. So then there's also that 3. And I have, what color hearts do I have? This nice dusty rose color. Oh, I do like that pop of pink. All that rusty color, and then you have this dusty rose. I think that's pretty cool how this color works itself into this. And let's get this to dangle on the side. So it looks like it's dangling. And now, so after doing this, that's exactly almost the same way that I have it done. So we have our title, we have spaces for photos. I did change one up to have that Polaroid. We have also, we added a tickets and dovetail banners. My journaling is on the opposite side, so very, very similar. But I like to add a little bit of texture and to add more detail to it. And so this is where my dies come in handy. You saw the Polaroid die, and earlier I said I'm using this furry forest. I cut the mushrooms out in white and I ink blend it with some Concord and 9th inks. The leaves I did in 2 shades of Color Vibe Green, and I just inked it to give it more color. But I'm going to actually tuck these into spots to bring in some of those greenery and mushrooms to tie in the whole piece together. So adding some of those mushroom. So my favorite part is using my dies in other ways, because not only am I a card maker, I love scrapbooking, so might as well get our use out of the things that we buy. So I'm just going to add some of these elements to make it more woodsy, but also the reason I pick these elements is because it ties in with the whole theme of the collection pack. So I have these random leaves And I'm just going to add them into spots. There's different kinds of mushrooms. And I think these I'll just glue down flat because I still want my photos to have all the focus on this page. Let me see what other greenery I can add. So let's add, I have a leaf here. Let's add one down here. And let's add another one here. This one I'm going to just add it a little bit lower. I'm going to add one more mushroom here, probably the brown mushroom, just to break it up. And it's a little bit smaller. It can go right over there. This one I might pop just the top of the mushroom cap and then glue down the bottom. The little fungi. And there you go. So using that, I have my title, I have a journaling spot, I use dies, ephemera. So this is a single page layout. And I know some of you like to do double pages. So what I did was I created a second page that could be on your left side or right side. Let me see if I can move things around using the same elements. Give me 2 seconds. I made a huge mess on this table. Where did it go? And let's see if I can fit this on properly. Let's all those strings. So here is my left side and my right side, creating the same element. So I have that whole, let's say, launch clothing line, but instead of small photos like on this side, I did a bigger photo with that furry forest die. It has this background. It looks like trees, like the forest trees. I used it as the frame for my big photo. This was the die cut from the ephemera set. And this was the Polaroid, and I added some of those ephemera pieces in this die cut set. And here I also did the same. I used some ephemera. I added some of my die cuts. I inked it up and I plugged it into spots. And to create that grassy look, I just tore my paper in different sizes and layered it on top. So even though I didn't do my background the same as the one I created tonight, I've tied in the same pattern paper and same background, but it still has that flow because that green background still flows left to right. I still have that teal as the background and the same sketch, the full sketch, and then a little bit of that sketch brought in together. So I have a couple minutes. Let's whip up one card because I have so much extras. And that way we can create something with what we have. So I have my card base. Let's grab my trimmer. Sorry for the mess. And let's grab some paper. So I should have more of that green cardstock. Okay, so I have some more of that green cardstock. I am going to cut the green to 3.5 by 4 3/4. 3.5. Let's see if I have enough here. By 4 3/4. Just using some of my left. And we're going to tweak it a little bit. I'm going to do landscape. And where is my tea ruler? If you haven't seen the Pear Blossom tea ruler, it's great for being able to do matting at 3/8 of an inch or 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is turn it upside down. I am doing a 3/8 mat. So I'm lining that groove so it gets snugged in if you turn it the other way because of the little indent. And I am going to position my paper. So if you're wondering how I got that matting size, is because I know it's 3/8. I times it by 2, so then you get a full. So here is a little cheat if you're looking for the mats. For the 3/8 border, you want to cut a piece that's 3.5 and 4 3/4. If you are trying to do a half inch border matting, you want to cut your paper to 3 1/4 by 4.5. So that is a little cheat there. I've also wrote it behind the packaging so I remember, but I also keep that. So having that groove, I lined up my mat right to where the T is, and now I have an equal distance mat. Best invention ever. But there is the ruler, and where is my embroidery thread? So let's create, same thing. We're going to do a little line here. And let's find a small sentiment. Because the card is small, I need a small sentiment. Let's see what I have here. I have Ready for an Adventure. And, oh, I have the sheet here. Let's see what we can use here. We could use an icon. Because of my spacing, let's use, I like that. I like the words of that, even though I can't use it all. We are going to see how we could use it. And oops, I really misjudged cutting that. Okay, so here's my 3x4, and because I want it to look similar, let's cut some of these square icons. So I like that mushroom over there. We can do the fox, could do the bird. So let's see, let's cut some of those out. Or we could use our stickers and ephemera pieces, but let's use the cut aparts. Quick and easy card, but a great way to use up all the little things. So cutting the mushrooms. And let's see what will match that. Let's do the bird. Or you could do words and pick one big icon in the middle. Because my sentiment's in the middle, I'm going to do 3 little icons. But I know this one I need to cut a little bit more. So I am going to give it a little grungy look to it. And I'm just tearing around the flowers and the notepad. Oh, there's a snail at the bottom. I just noticed that. So I'm just making it smaller by tearing it. And of course we can ink it if you want. But I'm going to tear, just poor snail, I'm going to have to take you off because I need a tad smaller. Bye-bye, snail. And actually, so let's stick that down. The squares don't fit because of the size of the card, but here is where, so there's the string. Here is where I am going to just fuzzy cut and make an embellishment. beside. With this one here, the green leaves are very hard to fussy cut. So I am just going to focus on the bigger green leaves and the mushrooms. Some of the thin ones most likely will rip if I even tried. So let's cut. And here. So this one, I'm going to actually tuck it, overlap in here. So I know we're going for that whole kind of clothing line look to it. This one, where did my pop dots go? Okay, lost my pop dots somewhere on the table, so we're going to use adhesive. And my bird. My bird seems really big there. I'm actually going to overlap birdie because I still want to be able to see the string. And what else can I add? I'm going to see if I don't think I have any more of these taggies with words. It's too much of the same color, so I'm going to use one of the tabs on the sticker because I wanted to make it look like it was clipped on. And maybe we will add, where's my hearts? I feel like it needs some sort of dimension if I can find, oh, there it is. So quick and easy card. I might cut this down just a little bit. But same idea, and you can use smaller icons. But there you go. Just using what we have. So we did a card using the sketch. We created a page for the sketch. And let me take out that sketch again. So if you want to participate, these sketches are in the inner circle. We have two sketches for layouts, one with one photo and then this multi-photo. And there's also a sketch for the card. So I hope you enjoyed that tonight. Thank you so much for joining me. Sherry will be here next week with our Learning Live. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me, and we will see you very soon. Have a good night. Bye.